Hello and welcome back. Today we are here with the wonder herself, Caitlin Dechelle.
Hi guys.
Thank you so much for being with us today.
Of course.
You are a prolific martial artist with a black belt in 3 different styles of martial arts: Chinese Kenpo, Japanese Goju-Ryu, and Taekwondo. You are a world champion holding 95 world titles. You have an absolutely incredible stunt career working on Jackie Chan's Chinese Zodiac, Teen Wolf, Furious 7, Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, Terminator, Dark Fate, The Mandalorian, NCIS, The Hunt, being the lead stunt double for Gal Gadot in Wonder Woman, and so much more. And you are also one of my very dear friends. Okay, let's get into your exciting journey thus far. When did your journey in martial arts start, and how did it lead to 95 world titles?
So I started martial arts when I was 6 years old. Before even starting martial arts, when I was like 4, I did like all the little girl things like tap dance and, things like that. And then unfortunately, my brother got really sick with a brain tumor. And, all of my parents' means and time and everything had to obviously go to him and his health. So I quit all of that. And my parents, were just constantly with him at the hospital and whatnot. And thankfully, he is alive and well. And once he kind of started, getting a little bit better, I guess I had a lot of energy. And they were like, What do we do with her? Oh. And my mom's dad suggested, why don't you put her in martial arts? Like maybe, as a woman one day, she'll need it to defend herself. Like, who knows? So my parents found a karate school in Miami, and I fell in love with it. And I guess I don't think I was very great at first.
Who is when they start stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, there'll be funny stories where my dad will be like, I guess in one of my testings, they would say something like, oh, go left. And I went right. And and my dad was like, oh man, well, here she goes. Maybe this isn't the greatest, but.
How old were you?
Probably like 6 or 7, like, brand new, just kind of starting out. But, when you're testing, you're nervous and all these other things. But yeah, and then I just fell in love with it. I think I fell in love with the challenge that it brought, and the belts that you had to do and the forms you had to learn and the weapons that went along with that. And they couldn't keep me out of the karate school. I just was there, and my dad was there by my side, at all my martial arts lessons. And I think that was more of like, since he had spent so much time with my brother while he was sick, that was lost years, that we didn't get to spend together. So, he would be with me at every karate class and watching. And he's never done martial arts, but let me tell you, he could tell you every right and wrong thing you do, and it's incredible. So, and then I started competing at the age of 8 on a circuit called NASKA, North American Sport Karate Association. And we traveled to about 1 tournament a month in a different city, and he would travel everywhere with me. Wow. And I competed from 8 to 24 years old, and that's how those 95 world titles came about.
Do your parents have them like all in a room? Like, where do you keep all the trophies and the titles and everything?
So it's kind of like that, but there's not like a trophy for every single one. There'll be like notable things that I won, like a Warrior Cup, and that's like a 5-foot trophy. And it's massive. They have to ship it to you. Like, you can't even take it home on the plane. It's not one of those. So the first one I ever won, I don't remember how old I was, but it was taller than me. Like, I was just a small little kid next to it. And it was like such a big accomplishment. And I have 3 of them. And they sit in the house, which my mom is probably going to pawn off to me now that I have bought my own house. But I have like, for the special moments and the special trophies, but for everything else, it's like divisional wins in world titles, and I don't have those like up anywhere. But I have quite a bit of trophies.
Are they like pieces of paper, some of them?
Yeah, some of them are paper. We have one tournament where you win a diamond ring, and it has a small little diamond, and it says Diamond Nationals. So I have those. So it's like some tournaments have like unique little, whether it's like a trophy or a paper or, something like that, a ring. But for the most part, I don't have one for like every single thing. I literally would drive my parents crazy.
You enrolled at the University of Central Florida as a biology major with the goal of becoming an orthodontist. When did you have the idea and desire to take what you've learned from so many years growing up and turn it into a career in stunts?
So yes, I have always loved school. It was always a thing with my parents that they always said, if you want to do martial arts, you have to have straight A's in school. It wasn't like, oh, just go to karate and like forget about school. So it was one of those things where I was very studious. I wanted straight A's as bad as I wanted to win a tournament. Like I was like OCD and like challenged like that. So it was one of those things where I like didn't mind, and I loved school. So yeah, I was like, okay, well, what can I do? And I wanted to be an orthodontist. I had braces twice.
You have beautiful teeth.
Oh, thanks. But I don't know why. I guess I always just loved orthodontist. Like it was like intriguing to me when I went in there all that time. And so I was like, oh, cool. And then I love science. So I was like, that's perfect. I could be a bio major. And I loved it. I was about 2 years in. And then I was like kind of on the end of my competing years. And like any professional athlete, football, basketball, you have a shelf life.
Yeah.
So it was one of those things where it's like, okay, well, if I'm going to retire, what else can I do? Like, how can I still do what I love, but not run a karate school or do something kind of typical like that? So, industry, I was like, well, I could do stunts. I can still do martial arts and not necessarily be on a live stage, a live performance, but still, I'll be on camera and millions of people around the world could see it. Like, how cool is that?
Yeah.
So I left school. My parents were not thrilled at first. And I was like, no, but mom and dad, like, I'll go to school, when I'm in California and I'll continue until, hopefully stunt work picks up. And they agreed. Okay. And so I moved out, and I was in Orlando at the time, drove my car across the world to LA, just got into the business, and I booked a Comcast commercial. That was one of my very first few things that Taft-Hart lead me into SAG. And then I got a job here and there and started meeting people and stopped school because I
Sorry,
couldn't.
Mom and Dad.
I just couldn't anymore. It was like I would miss a bio lab and then I would fail out of the class essentially because I had to be on set. So it was just kind of one of those things where you could not do both. It was just not possible. So I do miss school and I do miss it because I think it was really cool and I enjoyed it. It was challenging. So of course it was something that I was like, I'm gonna get straight A's. Yeah. But it was just one thing that martial arts has been my life and my passion and my love. So to be able to still do it till this day is incredible.
It's amazing.
Thanks.
So how did you transition, how did you learn how to translate what you've learned onto film?
For martial arts?
Because there's a learning curve for film, right? Because it's not in person.
Yeah. So, it is very different because in martial arts, we learn katas, forms, routines, kind of like a gymnastics floor routine. And we're taught certain things. Like the biggest thing is a chamber. Like we chamber in martial arts and we are taught that at any point, if you are not punching your other hand's in a chamber, but for fights, you don't want to do that. It looks too clean and perfect on camera, and normally fighting for, stunts is a little bit more gritty and a little bit more, it's not perfect. So that was one of the biggest things that I actually really had to make a conscious effort to not put my hand there, because for all my years I was reprimanded to put my hand here. Yeah. So it's one of those things of where there were little things that I had to kind of change and mold along the way. But again, I think it was fun to be challenged to do what I do best, but in a different way.
Did you make things up too?
Yeah. Sometimes on some jobs we get to kind of put our input in, or hey, if they're like, oh, we want to do a flip here. Well, my signature flip is a Webster, the front flip off the one foot. Yes. So I try to put that in every job I do now, because it's funny. People notice it and they're like, oh, that's Caitlin. Or I'll get messages.
That's so cool.
Like when Mandalorian came out, I did it in that fight scene. And people, when I posted it, were like, oh my gosh, I knew that was you. Aww. I saw the front flip. I saw the Webster. We knew. And I was like, that's cool. It's kind of become a signature thing. So yeah, thankfully I get to input along the way.
You have a very close relationship with Jackie Chan. How did you two meet, make a film together, and strike up a dear friendship still to this day?
Oh, Jackie. He's just fantastic. He's just a fantastic human being.
I know, you love him and he loves you.
He's great. Yeah. But to start the whole story, long story short, he found me on a TV tournament that's on ESPN every year. And for us in our circuit on NASKA, it's our prize tournament. Everyone trains hard for that moment to be on that stage to win a title. And I guess he was in the United States one day, night, whatever. And he was sitting watching TV and martial arts came on. So he stopped, naturally, Jackie Chan, martial arts. Yeah. So he stopped, he watched, and I guess I had I was competing, but then I had disappeared. So then he was like, oh, I got my phone out and I sat and I waited. And he's like, maybe she was going to come back. And he's telling me this story. And it's just the most animated whole thing you could ever imagine. And he's like, I sat there with my phone and then he's like, you came back. And I took a picture.
Oh.
And I was like, oh God. I was like, thank you, sir. I was like, it's an honor. I don't even know if I spoke, to be honest, in that moment.
Because you just impressed him so much.
Yeah, because, it's a tournament. He could have picked the girl before me or after me, but he chose me. He said that he liked my presence and my martial arts and my everything. And I was just like, whoa. And he said that once he took that picture, he was casting for Chinese Zodiac and he sent it to his producer and said, find her.
Wow.
Yeah, so then I literally got an email and it was the shortest one-liner. And it was like, hello, Caitlin, would you like to be in Jackie Chan film? And I was like, huh, okay, yeah. I was like, of course, respectfully, I'm going to answer this. So I'm like...
It kind of sounds like a spam thing, though.
Right. You would think that because, you get random emails through your website and you're just like, oh, maybe spam, whatever. Yeah. But I responded and I was like, hello. I was like, yes, that would be an honor. Like, I would love to. Please let me know details. And then they were like, okay, we'll get back to you. And I was like, oh, okay, that's what that was, whatever. Like 6 months later, I got a contract. I got a flight to Beijing. They're like, we're ready now. And I was like,
all at once.
Okay, yeah. And I didn't really know what I was going for, to be honest. Like I figured it was stunts, but I was like, oh, if they want me to go hold his coffee, I will hold your coffee, sir. So I got on the plane. I flew to Beijing. It was still kind of in the beginning of my career too. So I was kind of like, oh.
How old were you at this point?
I want to say like 22, maybe 23, younger. So just never know. But it was Jackie Chan. So I was on that plane and I went like right into a hair and makeup fitting costume and everything. And I was like so dark and drab. Like my makeup was like heavy and I was the only thing I could think about. Well, one, I was super jet lagged and exhausted. But then two, I was like, if I meet Jackie Chan looking like this, I'm going to be very scared. But I just like let it go. I was like, just get back to the room, get a good night's sleep. They're like, yeah, we're picking you up 5 a.m. I was like, wow, okay. Got up the next morning, got to set and they started doing my makeup and it was like light and like pretty. And my hair was curled and I was like, oh, thank gosh. I'm like, maybe it was Jackie. Maybe Jackie didn't like it. So then like he walks in not long after, like shades on. You could just tell, not a fan of the morning. I'm not either.
Me either.
And he was like, hello, I'm Jackie. And I was like, yes, sir. Nice to meet you.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, that you are. And he just sat next to me and I was like, I've never sat more like straight and still in my life. And I still kind of didn't know what I was doing. And then they put some lines down. And I was like, oh, these are in English. Thank gosh. And he's like, okay, lines. Let's go.
You hadn't read a script up until this point?
No.
Because that's not normal. Like, you send somebody a script and like...
Of course. And but I had it. And I was just like, oh, lines? I guess I'm acting. I was like, yes, sir. Here I come. And I like walked out. And the very first day on set, on Chinese Zodiac, I did lines with Jackie Chan.
How cool.
Crazy.
Sometimes there are those stories where you just like, that's how Star Trek kind of happened for me. And I had no idea what I was doing.
That's so cool.
But it doesn't normally happen like that.
No.
But when it does, to be able to know that you're the type of person that can just go with it, like that's where success comes from. Like sometimes you do have to take that leap of faith. Yeah, it could be sketchy, but yeah, it could be amazing.
Right. You just never know.
Sometimes it's amazing.
Yeah. It was amazing.
That's so cool.
Jackie and I still keep in touch with his team and whatnot. If we're ever like in the same country on different projects or whatnot, or he comes to LA, there's always like a core group of us that get to go to dinner. And he's just a fantastic human being. I mean, obviously he's one of the most talented people and he is a legend, but just as a human being, he's beyond sweet and caring. So it's so cool to see someone like that you watch all those years just be a genuinely good person. Yeah. It like makes my heart so happy. So yeah, it's great.
Nice. Yeah. And you're a legend as well, Caitlin.
Aww,
so
thanks.
He's lucky to be friends with you as well. Tell us about the process of becoming the stunt double for Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman, what an experience. It was a long journey. It was about a 10 or 11 month job on its own, but it was fun. I think, and I feel like using this word challenging, but every job that you do is challenging. And this was one of those that just required a lot of hard work. I trained a lot between just being in a gym and getting my body to be exactly where they wanted it to be, but then also learning the choreography and making sure I was super prepared for camera. But just the fact of like having a sword for a character, that's my weapon. Like that's my thing. So I was like, this is heaven. And I remember putting the suit on for the first time and I was like, this is kind of surreal. Like I'm like a superhero, I guess, you know, kind of thing. So, I mean, it was great. Patty Jenkins was great. Gal was great. It was a really fun experience and I'm really glad I did it because it challenged me mentally, physically in so many ways that I just feel like I came out just a better person, stronger, better. And then of course the movie did fantastic. So that was an exciting accomplishment.
And so I like to say you are actually the real life action star of this film because you literally like did all of her stunts. And that like it's you. Whenever you see her doing a flip or something, that's Caitlin.
Face replace is a crazy thing.
What does a face replace look like? What is that?
So what they do normally is they just put a bunch of dots all over your face. So of course the running joke on set is like, oh, you have something on your face. And you're like, yes, I know. Thank you, my dots. But I guess, and I don't know like the technical terms and what they do behind it, but I think literally with those tracking dots, they could take your face off and put the actress's face on. And it happens in not just Wonder Woman that I did, but a lot of films that I actually do. If, you know, something is too dangerous for the actress or something that they're not able to do, then normally we have dots and they'll just replace it. So sometimes I see my body flying through camera with an actor's face and I'm like, oh, that's me. I'm like, there you go. Which is kind of cool, but it's crazy what technology can do nowadays.
What did the training consist of?
Training was just a lot of physical workouts. I mean, we did a lot. So my daily day when we were in like pre-production before we started shooting was I would get up and before call time and work, I would do like 30 minutes of fasted cardio just on my own, whether it was a ski machine, a rower, a bike, a boxing, just something cardio to like really get my heart rate going. And then we would start the day, we would do choreography, just make sure we had, you know, all of our fights ready to go for camera. We'd have lunch. Then I'd go do about an hour and a half, like lifting. So we're just prepping at this point. And then after that, I would eat like a snack post-workout, and then we would go back into choreography, and that would be my days. I mean, they were long. Like some days just felt like never ending. But I think that's where kind of like the martial arts came into play and what I've learned in that and just the dedication, the perseverance, the hard work. Like I was used to sometimes those kind of hours and training when you're exhausted and training when you didn't feel good and training when you had a headache, and you kind of just learn to adapt and like push through. So I think my martial arts definitely helped shape, you know, the way I am when I work, because I'm able to get through those 16 to 20 hour days sometimes, or whatever is really called upon and needed, I feel like I can do and I'm okay. So
nice.
Yeah.
So you have another part of this question is you have obviously sword fighting experience and you've actually trained me how to sword fight and for a project that I'm doing. And then, so where did you learn how to wield a sword like you do? I mean, she is amazing. We'll put in some video footage of her and her incredible skills. So where did you learn how to do that? And wire work as well, because you have wire work experience.
Yeah, so all the weapon training was actually throughout my martial arts career. And my first instructor, he made us learn all of the weapons. Like we didn't really have a choice, but it came in handy because I learned how to do everything. So sword, bow staff, nunchucks, sais, fans, 3-sectional staff, a little bit of steel whip. So like we had to kind of learn it all. And then kind of like picking up commas also, you know, like commas are kind of having, you know, something in your hand is kind of like, you know, twirling a bow staff or like, so kind of some things intermix and kind of help you learn like and do other things. But I fell in love with the sword. Like all I wanted to do was sword. Like my instructor's son did it and I was like, that's what I'm going to do. And I just watched him. And then finally when I was able to pick up a sword, I was like, that was it. Like I did sword and I never stopped. And yeah. And then, you know, over the years, especially I feel like when you get older, just like in anything, you're more aware of like, oh, if you like watch playback of yourself, you're like, oh, that wasn't clean, or like, oh, I could do that better, or, you know, if I step here, I could be a little bit faster. So I feel like as I got older as an adult, I was really able to like see myself and fix things that like I didn't like, or like just make myself better essentially. And then of course my dad along the way was there to help be my eye on the outside, especially when like iPhones didn't exist. That was never a thing when I was a kid to like, you know, we had the big camcorders. So to watch playback wasn't just like, oh, you know, go into your photos and watch. So, so that, I mean, that was learning all of that. And then as far as wire work, you kind of learn it on the job. Like there's not a place you go like wire school, you know.
I would go to wire school. That sounds fun.
Gianna would be at wire school, let me tell you that. But yeah, you kind of just learn. You know, when we're on set, we obviously have mats down. They just don't like throw you against the wall or to the floor the first time. Like you'll go to a mat, you'll feel like where it's kind of pulling you, so you learn. But I've never done the same wire move twice. Like that's the crazy part. Every job is different. Every job will call for something different because the character calls for something different, or you're a superhero in one show, but you're, you know, a normal human being in another show. So you're not going to fly across the room like a superhero. So, you know, it varies. So I feel like you're always kind of learning. I never get to work and I've been like, oh, I've done that one. It's different every time, which is scary, yet challenging, which I love.
And you have to trust the person operating the wires too.
That's a big thing. Yeah. As long as, you know, you kind of know some of the bigger riggers who exist in the industry. And the one that I just worked on Hawkeye, Michael Huggins, he was fantastic. Like I always felt safe with him and his team. They always explained things to me and kind of told me, and we always had mats down. And
that's good.
Thankfully I was safe that whole job.
Yes, thank God. When did you go vegan, and what or who inspired you to do so?
October 8th, 2018.
You remember the actual day.
I do remember the actual day. So I had always kind of thought about going vegan. It was one of those things where I like didn't know how or where, you know, details, things like that. And my mom actually went vegan a few months before that, because I believe she went to the doctor and they told her she had high cholesterol, I want to say, which is so odd because I feel like generally my mom eats pretty healthy. I get my figure. She would love me to say that from her.
It's true.
And so it was very odd that was the case, but they were like, oh, we want to put you on all these things. My mom was like, whoa, time out. I'm not taking all these pills and things, and no, like I'm going to go home. I'm going to search it on my own and like try to troubleshoot, and then I'll get back to you. So she went home and she read that going vegan would help that. And it did. It brought like all her levels back down and helped her out. And of course, my mom is very much so about animals, loves animals, like rode horses her whole life. So she's always been about the animals. So that was another huge thing for her. So she, you know, would try to tell me like, go vegan, you'll love it, blah, blah, blah. And kind of simultaneously, and on Wonder Woman and forward, I had stomach issues. I had a lot of digestive issues. I went to a doctor at one point and they told me I had an overgrowth of parasites in my stomach. So I was on an antibiotic for that. And I just like, I couldn't figure out my body. And I didn't know what it was because I was like eating salads and like healthy things. And I could never figure it out. And as an athlete, it's the most frustrating thing because I could work out for hours a day and I could definitely be in a calorie deficient, but my stomach was like bloated and I was uncomfortable. And I was just like, something is not right, you know? So my mom was like, try it. Like maybe it'll help, you know? And with my ex at the time, we were like, let's try. Like, so we literally, October 8th, went to Whole Foods. Well, it was probably the day before. Went to Whole Foods.
And this is when we were training too, and I would always be like a bird in your ear too.
Yeah, okay. yeah. No, and you would always tell me about it as well. So I had a lot of interest in it. I just didn't want to go at it the wrong way. Yeah. So, or like halfway, because I was like, well, that's not going to help me if I like kind of do it some days, kind of do it other days. So I was like, I'm just going to full force do it. So I went to Whole Foods, shopped completely vegan, you know, no more fast food things that like we would eat sometimes. And I never went back from that day. I have never eaten meat since. And it was one of the best decisions I've ever made. Like I feel So much better. I feel like I have more energy. I feel my stomach, I don't have these crazy bloating issues. I mean, I still will, like if I'm tired or like, the body's natural rhythm, but I don't feel like from eating something, I feel heavy. So what I think it was at the end of the day was meat. I just think that it didn't sit well in my stomach and it just gave me a lot of issues. And like I said, especially as an athlete, I like in flipping and being as active as I am, being heavy was like not an option. It was not a good thing. Right. Or like just feeling lethargic or, feeling like I literally looked and felt like I was pregnant. Like it was just uncomfortable. And I was just finally, when that all kind of subsided, I lost some unwanted weight.
Nice.
And and I just felt better. And then of course, same, the animals, like amazing. Like some of the videos you see on Instagram nowadays of what they do to these animals is just horrific.
Oh, it's horrific.
I like can't even, and I'm vegan and like I can't even watch it because it's just so sad, you know? And I feel thankful that I am helping that, but then also it has helped my body. So it's like I'm just doing good all over. So it feels great.
So it not only helps your health, it helped your athleticism, you feel. Do you feel like it hindered you or like really helped you?
No, I think it helped me. And like it's funny because you see yourself every day, so you don't really notice certain things. But I remember going and teaching a seminar in San Francisco, and it's with this family that I had taught their kids like all, since they were young. So they've seen me a lot, and they've been around me a lot. And I remember since going vegan, I went to the karate school and did a seminar, and I walked in and the lady was like, "Oh my gosh, you look great.
Ooh.
You look radiant." And I was like,
radiant.
Wow, radiant. Oh, I was like, please tell me more. and I just remember like being so excited that I was like, oh, you get cool. Because I felt that as well. But like I say, you see yourself every day, so you don't feel it on that kind of contrast. So when someone said it to me, I was like, and she's like, well, what did you do? And I told her I'm vegan now, and I just kind of, educated her a bit on like what I eat and, life now. And she was like super excited to listen to it all. And I was like, cool. Yeah. So like I said, best decision I ever made.
You've said when you love what you're doing, the bumps don't seem so bumpy. What are some of the sacrifices you've had to make and continue to make while pursuing your career?
Ooh, that's a good question. I feel like as far as sacrifices, with any professional sport or, thing along the way, there's always sacrifices. You're always going to miss something and, not be able to be somewhere like, growing up. I don't want to say I didn't have the most normal childhood, but I lived at the karate school. I didn't go to afternoon school, whatevers and things. Like I would go home from school, I would do my homework, and I would go to karate for like hours on end. And one thing that I actually never went to was prom. And I made that choice. Of course, that was, end of high school and whatnot. We had a tournament every year in Quebec, and I wanted to compete. It was a huge tournament, amazing stage. The promoter was just a fantastic human being. And that was my life. That was my commitment. But it was my choice. My parents didn't force it upon me or anything like that. Like, I wanted to go, I wanted to compete, and I wanted to do that. So things like that. And then, anything with the industry is tough. We travel a lot. Like I said, Wonder Woman, I was gone for 10 or 11 months, and we were in London, and the last 2 months were in Italy. Nice. And it all sounds great, and it was. I got to explore new cities and whatnot, but it's hard being away from home and being away from your family and your loved ones and your friends and having a relationship, especially as you get older. You're gone for months on end and you don't have weeks to fly home. I flew home for Christmas during Wonder Woman, but normally if it's like during the year, we don't have breaks. We don't fly home. So you try to have somebody come visit, but it's hard. You're in full work mode. So I would say some sacrifices like that. But at the end of the day, like the quote said, it's really not sacrifices when it's something you love. And when it's something you truly enjoy, it's it's just part of the process, if that makes sense.
It's totally worth it.
Yeah.
So what about like the physical bumps, the bumps and bruises that you get because you're thrown around?
Yeah. Naturally they're going to happen because we're thrown around, thrown through walls, glass, everything else. But thankfully, I have never been hurt too crazy. I've had a few surgeries in my martial arts career, and I've had one with my finger in my stunt life. But thankfully, besides that, I have not had anything too intense. Wow. I mean, Wonder Woman, I had this like huge bruise on the side of my leg. I mean, it was like I had slid through like gravelly rock.
Ooh.
Yeah. And that was a pretty one.
Was it all bloody type of thing?
You know, it was just like a little scraped up, but it was just black and blue. Like, it was not cute.
Because the way you landed on it.
Yeah, like landed and just skid and yeah. But besides that, I mean, thankfully, I haven't had anything too crazy. You know, certain wire pulls, you know, if you go down to the ground, yeah, is your shoulder going to be sore? But it also comes with the job. Like, you know that if you do something that's a bit crazier, like, you're not going to come out completely, like, perfect.
Right.
But that's normal. I mean, on the hunt, actually, I went through glass for the first time. And it was just such a rush of adrenaline. I was just like we're setting up and they're like, all right, camera's rolling. And you're like, 3, 2, it's like being on a roller coaster kind of thing. And
it's tempered glass though.
Yeah, it's tempered and it's on a system, but still like it's able to cut you. So they put like stuff on our hands just to make sure. And as soon as we landed, they were like, keep your eyes closed, like don't, open because let us come blow them out. And then I stood up and I had these pants on that had like this much skin in between my pant and my boot. And I had a few like cuts and there was like some blood dripping on the floor and they're like, just don't move. And I'm like, oh, and I think I have one little like scar cut somewhere
from
here from the glass. But again, you're going through glass. Like, what do you expect to kind of happen?
Did you go face forward or back?
Back. So I pushed off against the wall and I had a girl on my back. And I pushed her and she went through. We both went through and then we separated on the floor.
So that's where you got bloody on the floor?
Yeah, I think when we kind of hit it and when we hit on the floor, like something got us. But yeah, so I mean, there are the occasional bumps and bruises, but I don't know, it's kind of fun at the end of the day. Yeah. Like, you just always hope you recover. That's one of the things, like, especially as I get older. I'm like, and that's why thankfully I think having a vegan lifestyle and diet, like, also keeps me that much more healthy. So thankfully I think I recover a little bit quicker. But yeah, that's always the fear.
Who has been your biggest inspiration in your career?
I think I want to say my dad.
Oh.
Yeah.
My heart.
There was nobody that, a lot of people start martial arts because they like watch Ninja Turtles or like Power Rangers or something like that. Like, you hear a lot of stories like that, but that really wasn't necessarily my story, like why I started, you know what I mean? So, and then my dad was there just along the way, along the journey the whole time. Like, there was never a moment, a testing, a practice, a karate tournament, and anything that I remember him not being there. And it was just, I don't even know how to describe it, but it brought us so close. Like, I'm very close with my parents, we're best friends. And even my mom to an extent, and even my brother, like, my family is a lot to me. And I think just seeing my brother even recover, again, and that was like fully inspiring to like go and like live life and do what I want to do. And like, especially as I got older, really pursue my passion. And then my mom is just a fantastic human being. She's a gem. So even though she was more so at home with my brother, helping with schoolwork and things and, home life, and my dad was always at karate with me, she was just as supportive. She was always there. She'd come to the US Open, the big tournament, that Jackie found me on. She would come and my brother would come watch. And,
nice.
If they could, if it was close enough for all of us to travel. So it was very supportive growing up. And they love me more than anything. And I love them more than anything. And it's just, yeah.
You're so blessed.
I truly am. Like, they're my inspiration. They keep me going. They help me with everything. Even to this day, on a day-to-day basis with work, life, relationships, advice, just teaching me so many things that I feel like you're not taught in this world.
Being a female in a male-dominated sport, you hold titles and records that men don't even have. What advice would you give to women who want to have a career in stunts and/or martial arts?
I would say follow your dreams. I feel like it sounds cliche, but it's true. Like, no matter what it is, because I'm sure there's many other, females who try to do male dominated sports. Even, I don't know why race car driving came to my mind, but I know there's a few females in that are amazing. And that's a male dominated sport, but it's like, why not? For me, I was always taught to train and be like the boys, be like the men. And that's what I think made me so much better. And that was something that my dad really taught me, that like, oh, well, if you can do that, like I can do that. And that's kind of the path that I took. And so I think if it's something that you want to do that you truly love, go after it, no matter what it is, because who says that we can't do certain things? Right. Just like males wanting to do maybe something that's more female dominated, like ballet comes to my mind. And there's some of the most amazing men that are like dancers. And it's just like, so I would never say like one can't do something and someone can't do something else, because it's what you love. It's what's in your heart. It's what's in your, that fuels your passion. So I would say if it's martial arts, do it. If you want to do stunts, do it. And there's a lot of different avenues for stunts. You don't have to be a martial artist. You could be a gymnast. You could be a dancer. You could be just an all-around athlete. You could be a firearms specialist. You could be a driver. You could be a motorcyclist. So there's so many routes to go into. You don't have to be a martial artist. You don't have to specialize in fights. That's what I do. That's what I love. But there's a lot of different ways in. So I would say if it's something that you want to do, just do it.
Nice. What life skills has your incredible career taught you, and how has it influenced who you are today?
Great question. My life skills, I would say, have come from the martial arts. Just the dedication, the perseverance, the hard work, skills, everything that I have learned in that, I feel like has influenced my life, whether, like I said, it was in school and always wanting to get straight A's, or whether it was winning the next tournament and beating and staying, on top and staying first in my divisions, or now in my career. I want to be the best I can. I want to make these characters look as incredible as they can. And, that requires a lot from me, and keeping sharp on my skills and keeping in the gym and things like that. So I think it's just, and I'm going to say it again, it's always been about the challenge. I love the challenge. I love the next thing to accomplish. And that's what I feel on these jobs, is every time you walk in to a new job, it is a new character. It's a new costume. It's a new weapon. It's a new style. It's new. And it's like, okay, how can I master this? How can I make this the best that it can look? And going back to the show that I just got off, Marvel's Hawkeye, the character that I doubled just was very unique and different. And she had like a different type of fight style that we had to kind of conceptualize and come up with that I had really never done. And it kind of included some like dance. And and I had never, I cheerleaded back in my day for a little bit, but I'm not a professional dancer by any means. But it was a challenge to figure it out. And how can I incorporate me, but incorporate the character? So doing things like that, I think and just coming from the martial arts, I've learned to be able to be thrown into those situations and be okay and be cool, calm, and collected, and not stressed out, or, think, oh, I can't do that, or like panic on the spot. I've learned to train and figure out and challenge myself along the way. So I think martial arts, if you ever want to do it, I think is it's great for way more than just the physical aspects of it. I think it's the mental things that you learn and the life skills behind it as well that I think has taught me a lot in life. And I'm blessed. I'm very grateful.
Thank you so much for tuning in. Love, Gianna and
Caitlin Dechelle.
So Caitlin just created a 4-step fight scene just for you guys. Here we go.
I'm just kidding. We're not hurt at all.
We love each other.
Stunt fighting at its finest. John is fantastic.
I learned from the best.